Hey, it's Tom for GAK, and I'm sat with Jamie, who is GAK's resident guitar tech. We're going to be running through how to restring your guitar properly and some things that you should look out for and what might be more appropriate for the type of guitar that you have. So I know that there are different types of tuners. Maybe you could run us through the different sorts and how it differs.
Yeah, so typically on a guitar you're going to find 3 or 4 different types of tuners, but the most common ones are going to be locking tuners, like on this PRS here. On Fender style guitars you will find the slot type tuner, the vintage tuner, where the string goes into the top of it and then wraps round, and then you'll also get the traditional tuning post with the hole in there, like on a slotted headstock or anything else, where the string has to go through it and then you tighten it up that way. And what we're going to do is to show you how to do those the right way today. So you're going to need a few tools to do this, just to make your life easier and to keep it nice and tidy. I see a lot of guitars with string ends hanging over on the end there. Just you know, being the OCD guy I am with this, it's just you know, I don't like to see it. But
yeah, no, it's awful.
So
sorry if anyone out there's there, but like
sorry, you know, some guys like it that way. That's fine, but just for me personally, God, mate, it makes me go funny. You know?
Yeah.
So you're going to want a screwdriver. You're also going to want some string cutters, and you're also going to want a string winder. I don't know if you've tried putting strings on a guitar without a winder. It takes a long time without one. It's a tool I can't recommend enough that you're going to need for this job. So once you've got your strings off, we're going to go into a bit on the restringing on this one just quickly. We'll just do one string on this because they're all exactly the same as they go on. In terms of string gauges on guitars, which will come through now, every manufacturer, depending on what type of model that they have, the guitar will come through set up with that set of strings on there.
Sure.
So typically what you're going to find on most guitars is 9 to 42 gauge and 9 to 46 gauge. And then occasionally on some Japanese, say, Gretsch guitars, they may come with 11 to 49s on there. But so if we just go for a quick list of different guitars in the ranges and what will come through.
Okay,
so if we're talking Fender Mexican made guitars will always come with 9 to 42s on there. Custom shop guitars and American original are 10 to 46. The rest of the Fender guitars are 9 to 42.
Okay.
Gibsons used to use 9 to 46, but they're 10 to 46 across the range, and I believe they are on the Epiphones now as well.
Okay.
And PRS, SE models come with 9 to 42 on the whole, and they're American made, Wood Library, all of the really nice models, they'll come with 10 to 46 on them as well.
Okay.
Bar the Dave Grissom, which is 11s on there as well. So just to go through that, make sure you put those strings on when they're going on the guitar, and it shouldn't upset the setup. And if you can, only change 1 or 2 strings at a time. The manufacturer will always say change 1 at a time. Take 1 string off, detune it, use your cutters, take it off, and then put the next one on, and we'll show you how to do that on each guitar.
Sure. So in terms of sticking to the strings that the manufacturer recommends, obviously a lot of people don't do that. Yeah. And that's where they run into setup issues. Right?
That's what. Yeah, you're going to have to get the guitar set up again when you change that. What will happen? And this is the same reason why we're only change 1 string at a time as well. If we take a set of 10 gauge strings, for example, the amount of pressure that they'll put on this guitar from here to here, is, once they're tuned up to pitch, is a lot of pressure. It's about 110 pounds of pressure pulling on that neck. Now, imagine if we take a different string gauge, that pound of pressure will change. So it might go down to, say, 9s, it might go down to 100 pounds or 102 pounds. What's actually keeping that pressure in check a lot with playability is the truss rod on the guitar.
Sure.
So that'll be the first thing that has to be adjusted, and then after that you will have to adjust the intonation to accommodate for those strings that have gone on there.
So in general, when restringing, you want to go for the same type of string if you don't want to have to reset.
If you don't want to reset it, you know, you're not too familiar with setups on guitars, and I would recommend everyone getting into that because it's.
Well, we're going to have a video.
We're going to get into that
alongside these.
Yeah. But stick with the recommended string gauge from the manufacturer on the guitar. If you're not sure, it'll be on their website. So say for Fender, you can find one of their guitars, or Gibson, or any of the brands. But going back to changing 1 string at a time, this is really important here, and this is why we'll say it. Imagine we've got 110 pounds of pressure on there. We've taken that, we take every string off, we've removed all the pressure off of the neck. If we put that 110 pound of pressure back on there, chances of that neck going back into exactly the same place, removing that amount of pressure and put it back on there, it might not go straight back into that place.
Sure.
It's unlikely.
So we've
unlikely.
taken all the strings off of this one because we were doing the fretboard and everything like that, and we're going to set it up as well. But yeah, like if you didn't want to set it up.
If you didn't want to set the whole guitar up, just change one. If you really want to speed things up, do two, but I'm saying do one at a time. So you're going to remove 10, 15 pounds of pressure and then put it back on there. That neck is not going to move too much. So detune it, take it off, put the string on, tune it back up, and then do the next one afterwards. If you don't want to run into any setup issues, that's the safest way to restring your guitar.
Cool.
So let's go into changing a string on this guitar. This one's really easy to do, by the way. It's a locking tuner.
Love locking tuners.
Love locking tuners.
Love locking tuners.
Yeah, we love them. They keep your guitar in tune. Real easy to restring as well. So there's not huge amount of thought process goes into this. So
that's why I love locking tuners.
So once the strings have come off the guitar, oh, here we go. We're all a bit tied up here. Try not to take your eye out in the process.
Watch my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, some Dunlop safety goggles.
Safety goggles, yeah, definitely.
If you own a set of grapefruit safety goggles, they can also be used for strings. You know, grapefruit safety.
Yeah. So this particular guitar is rear loaded through the back here. What you want to do is get your string, push it through the hole that it would have came out of before you took it off. That's it. Being careful not to pull it through too quickly, otherwise this ball end may potentially whack the back of the guitar. So just go through nice and gently, you don't need to go through it too quickly. Bring it up, and then with these they have a hole just on the side here. Wind it through, pull it relatively tight, you know, make sure it's all the way through the block as well. Once it's through there, tighten it up, finger tight, and then you're pretty much done. I personally myself, I like to put just another little bit of tightness on that string. Get a screwdriver, especially with these type of tuning machines, and just pop it in there ever so lightly, just a tenth of a turn, it's next to nothing.
Crazy,
nothing at all. So
no
just
Hulk grip.
And then just tune it up. That's the great thing about locking tuners. Once it's on there, tighten it up.
That is why I love them.
There you go.
Done.
Tune it up. So that's how we do one of these. We're going to move on to a Fender style guitar with the vintage.
Sure. So if we move on to, we've got a Fender Strat here. This is the Ed O'Brien signature model from Radiohead. Obviously this has got different style tuners on it, so how do we approach these?
So these are vintage style tuners. You see they've got the slot in there, and there's actually a hole in the centre that the end of the string end pushes down. But the key thing to putting these back on is knowing how much length to leave after each one. So with most guitar tuners, you'll push the string through, tune it up, and then cut the end off. With these, you actually cut the end before you actually fit it to the guitar.
Sure.
So what I'm going to do is just blitz through this. I'm going to take every string off on this because we're going to set this guitar up in a later video.
Sure. Yeah, we just said don't, but we're going to set it up anyway.
Change one at a time if you don't want to change the setup, but it will give you a clearer understanding of what we're going to do with each of these tuning machines. So get your string winder. I'm going to take the tension off of these just to slacken those off. So the tension of those is off, and to get them off, they literally just pop off. You'll find that they'll come loose and they'll just pop off once you've slackened them off. So what we want to do is then cut. These aren't going to go back through the bridge really easy, so I'm just going to cut these off. Again, do it with one if you don't want to change the setup.
Man, these are some old strings.
They're really old, yeah. You want to be careful with these, you might get tetanus off of them or something like that. They're pretty bad. So then feed them through the bridge. One of these.
So because these strings are super old, they've actually got stuck in the bridge.
Yeah, they can sometimes bind a little bit inside the bridge block here, and what we're having, obviously what you can see what we're having trouble with now is actually getting them through. But lucky enough, this lines up fine on the back, so we've not got an issue here, but it's actually getting the string back through the post. So what I'll tend to do is the offcut that I had from the low E string, because it's got the most support in it, is actually push it back through the saddle that way and just give it a little bit of gentle persuasion just to push that ball end back through the trem block on here, and this applies to all guitars. It's, you know, these particular systems can be prone to doing it, and sometimes you can get stuck as well. But what we do is just push these back through. Worn out. Right, okay. Speed things up.
So what you've just done there is obviously we cut some time because it takes a little bit of time, but we've strung all the strings through so that they're ready to be attached to the tuning pegs, and then we've just put the back plate on as well in case there wasn't any footage of that.
Yeah, we had some stubborn string ends in there that we had to kind of just poke back through the hole.
Why should you change your strings more regularly?
I'm going to go into detail about what order, how much length to leave on these as they go through, and you're going to love these tuning. I use these all the time. I love them, but it's just getting used to doing it. Once you've done it a few times, you've done it 100 times, and you get quicker and quicker. So, grab the string, make sure it's pulled right up in the block there. Bring it round to here. So we're going to fix it onto this peg here. Now, with these bass strings, you know, the wound strings that are on there, I like to bring it 1, 2, 3 away. So get my string cutters and then cut it on that third one, and then that's removed out of the way. I'll wind this one on for now just to show you. So the end of it goes in the hole that way, and then you push the end down that way and then pull it round. Now, if you're new to this, I would suggest putting it in there, keeping your finger down on there, leaving some tension in the string, as you can see my hand is there, and then just start winding it on, like so. And that's the right motion for using a string winder. I generally hold it between my index finger and my thumb and wrap my hands around it and then just wind it, and then we know that string's on. Now, once you've been doing this a while, you can speed up, you might not have to wind it as long. So again, with these strings, it's going on to here, 1, 2, 3, and I will cut that again. Bring that over. Now to speed things up, once you've been doing it a while, you might push it in the slot, wrap it round, and then just sort of flow it round, and then you've already got a big wind out the way then, and you've got less winding to do with a string winder. But again, it doesn't take.
So when you're holding it with your hand, in the right hand, you're like feeling the tension as you go down, right, to get it roughly right. I'm
keeping the tension up on this end, because the one thing I don't want is the string dropping down back through the block.
Yeah.
So again, I'll do that on this. 1, 2, 3. And then feed it into the hole, push it down, catch it so there's almost like a kink in that corner when it holds on, and then that's held on then. You can just wind it on. I wouldn't necessarily wind it all the way up to pitch, just get some tension in the string, don't go sharper than the note should be. So that's the 3 bass strings done, the E, A and the D. With these, I'll do them slightly differently. So I will pull it to here, and I will hold 4 on there. So you're going to have to imagine that you've got another 2 posts in. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, thereabouts. Cut that one through, and then we're going to wind that one on the same as the other 2 as well. Again, I'm going to do my little trick there where I can wrap it round a couple of times just so I don't have to wind it quite as much. And as you can see, my finger's always holding it down because I want the string to feed onto the post from the bottom. And these fingers are pulling the string up to stop it from dropping in the... You'll get used to the motion. Once you've done it a couple of times, you'll get used to it. And then we'll wind that one on. Again, getting it up to some tension. Now the B, I will run it down to here. Don't pull it too tight, but because I haven't got that many there where I can actually measure 4 away, I'll just sort of wrap it round and then cut it where the low E is. So then that one can be cut. Wrap it round and then just feed it on. And then the last one I'll do the same as I did the first one. Just if you're new to this, it's quite a bit of information to take in when you're doing it that way. So some tension in there, and then just push it gently under the string tree there. And then the last string here, I'll wrap it round to the A string. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then cut that as well. And then again in here. So we'll do this how we did the first one, which is the easier way. Push it down, just hold it there at that angle, and then wind on. Again, I've still got some tension. If I bring my hand up, you'll see that that tension is still in the string. So it is a bit more winding, but it's the safest way to start off doing it. There you go, your guitar's been restrung, and you can see on the tuning heads here that they're all, you know, there's a nice amount of winds on there. The reason I do it this way, if you haven't got enough winds on the string, you won't have much of a break angle here off the nut, and you'll find it can sometimes rattle.
Okay.
Whereas if you've got too much wind on the string, there's too much sort of slack in there.
Right.
What I get to, so if you've got too much slack in there, you'll find you might use your whammy bar, and because there's so much slack in there, it won't actually bite back onto the post in the same place, so your string will probably end up going flat. So what we're going to do, we're going to tune this up, and then I'm just going to give you a quick bit of information on how to stretch your strings out.
Forgive my ignorance,
yeah.
But what is a string tree for?
So the string tree is to, as you can see, you know, if you've got 3-a-side headstock, you've got a pretty steep break angle here, and you want that angle pulling down on the nut there to stop the, if it sits too high, you'll find that the string's just going to rattle in there and it's going to buzz. So the idea of the string tree, if you look at these two tuners here, they're quite a distance away from where this one is here, with a nice steep angle on there. So the idea of the string tree is to pull the strings down at a sharper angle before they actually get tied on here, to give you that angle here.
Sure.
So
it like forces them to stay in the nut.
Yeah, it's almost like an anchor that pulls the strings down tighter almost. Yeah.
Cool.
That's kind of what that's for.
Nice.
Okay, so what we've done, we've got the guitar in tune, and what we're going to do now is stretch the strings out so that as we do go to play it, that it's not going to go out of tune when we hit a big chord or do a string bend on there. So what I like to do is grab the string with both hands and kind of just bend it, or you can use one hand if you want and just kink it like that. Or another great way of doing it, which I found, you know, if you find it's hurting your fingers slightly, get 2 thumbs and then just bend it, each one, down the length of the fretboard.
Is there a particular reason as to why you would bend it along the length of the fretboard rather than outwards?
No, it doesn't really matter. Some people say that it does make a difference. I just do it this way because if I'm playing the guitar, that's the way I'm going to be. That's the way I'm going to be bending it. And I find if you put it like that, you might put it too hard. It could snap and catch you in the face, which is which is not fun. Yeah. Again, and then you want to do this 2 or 3 times. If you listen to this guitar now, it was tuned before we started doing this. You'll hear it's not in tune anymore.
Sure.
So we're going to retune it and then keep doing that.
So now you've done that, how many times would you recommend that you stretch the strings in?
I'd say 3 or 4.
3 or 4 times?
Yeah, that should be enough. 3 or 4 and then it's in tune, ready to go.
Wicked, cool.
One thing I will stress after you've done this, is particularly if you, as we touched on earlier, I think in this video or another one, is sweating acid. It's not really a nice thing to think about, but some people do have acidic sweat, and they'll find that they'll kill their strings really quickly.
Yeah.
You can prevent this. Now, again, it was like keeping the guitar clean, which you won't be stressed enough on this. Keep your strings clean as well. They're going to last longer. Now, it can get a little bit repetitive doing it, but if you don't want to keep changing your strings every week because you've killed them at the end of a week from playing it 3-4 hours a day, this stuff helps a long way. So, string cleaner, Ultra Glide, just on the end, push the end down a couple of times, and that will start getting it flowing. Just run it up and down your strings. Now, if you really want your strings to last the longest amount of time, I mean, there's 2 things that kill it, but one of them is dirt and acidic sweat and things like that. Just run this up and down the strings. It will lubricate them and it will clean them. If you can do it before you play and after you play, you're going to find that those strings aren't really going to get much of a chance to oxidize down to the acidic sweat. So that's the first thing that will kill a guitar string. The other thing is metal fatigue, and there's not a lot you can do about that other than changing the strings. So cleaning them is your best defense about keeping them on there as long as possible. Yeah. But you can't help the fact that, you know, you've been playing it, you've been doing double stop bends on every string for 2-3 weeks. the string starts to go dead after that.
Yeah.
And then again, I would just change your strings again. You can't really, once that, think of it like a elastic band. You're going to stretch it to a point where it stretches so far, and then it's just going to go dead or break, and that's what happens to guitar strings. So, yeah, keep on top of your string changing.
Cool. So, is there a really good point when you should change your strings? So, like, what are the key signs of when you need to do that?
So, a lot of people are very different with this. For me, I try and change mine every couple of weeks, but I'm playing my guitar for 3-4 hours a night. If you're only picking it up for half an hour a day, monthly or 6 weeks, something like that, what you're looking for on the string is if they've been on there for a month and you happen to have broken one. If you're playing too hard or it's just gone, they can go sometimes. I would change the set, so that they're all as balanced as each other. They're all fresh. If you've just broken one and you've only just put them on there, then we sell singles that you can get. You can put a single string on there. Yep. But the biggest giveaway for a string, when I would say to change them, it's all going to be down to you personally, but the biggest giveaway is when they're black and they look rusty. When they start, when these plain strings don't have a shine to them anymore, and then these start looking a little bit crusty up towards around here, change them then. And the other thing is is when they start to sound bad. When you put new strings on a guitar, they're going to sound bright and brilliant for a good couple of days after you've put them on there. Then they're going to start to sort of stabilise at a certain area, and then once that tone starts changing after a couple of weeks of you having them on there, you could change them again any point after that. But it's all down to the individual. But the biggest giveaway, if you've broken one and they've been on there for a month, change a lot. If they're black and rusty, change them then as well.
If they look gross, get rid of them. Yeah. And if they're not as bright and full of character as they used to be.
100%.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So the other type of tuner that we've got is the one with the hole for it.
Yeah.
So this isn't a vintage style tuner. It's something that you find on like modern Strats and.
Well, no, you will find it on some vintage guitars as well, particularly Gibsons.
Okay.
Most of those were, strung up that kind of way as well. They've been around. Both types have been around for a long time. If you go back really far, it's the slotted headstock type one. But again, similar fitting to how these go on. If I could hold on.
So we've already removed one string.
We've taken one string off just to show you. Now all of these are going to be exactly the same. And if you're not too sure when you're first doing this and you haven't done it before, take a photograph on your smartphone, whatever you've got, of the headstock before you start taking a string off. Just so you know which way around it goes. Now generally the wind will always come around this side, so the string will always stay to the inside of the tuner. But you can get some reverse headstock guitars that go the other way. So just take a photo and you know exactly which way it goes beforehand. So one of these, come through here. Now you don't want to cut the end off before. Now the rule that I have is I always bring it one tuner away from where it's going to go. So I'll put that through the hole, like this, so we can feed it back through. You can see that it's one tuning machine away. Pull it back through. Now, a lot of people complain about these style of guitars going out of tune. Now, there's a technique to doing this. So you've got the position where you want. Now, I will get this side of the string, and I will wrap it round the top, like that. And then, like I did with the other guitar, push my finger down, pull this end up so it's not in the way as you're going to turn it. Now wear eye protection, or just be careful with this hanging out. You don't want to get it in your eye because that will hurt. And then get your string winder, wind it on. Now the reason I'm doing it this way, you'll see as this comes back round, you'll understand why I've done it like that. So if you can see where this end of the strings come through, there's now a wind above it and a wind below. Now the reason we do that is that it clamps this side of the string onto the post. So once that tension's through here, it's also doing that on this part so it can't move. Now, to really finish that off and get it to where you want it to go, I would hit the tuning and then just give it a little wiggle. Don't do it too hard, but just give it a little wiggle once it goes through there. And you'll see that that's stretched out to where it needs to go. Once you're done, get your string cutters, put them around the side, and then cut it flush with the tuning machine so you can't stab your hand. And that's it.
Perfect. I've been restringing wrong.
Oh, what, on Gibson's?
I don't have Gibson.
But that style,
Yeah.
you want to come above and then below.
So there you go. We've got 3 different ways of restringing a guitar, and we've run you through Jamie's approach to restringing them. Hopefully you've got some really decent tips in there for little tricks and things you can do to make it a bit easier, and why you would do it that way. If you've enjoyed the video, leave us a like, subscribe to see more content like this. Check out some of the other videos we have in this series where we're talking about body finish and caring for your fretboard and things like that, and we'll see you in the future.